Okay, before I start, I'd like to make a confession, and I hope you don't judge me too harshly for this. My name's Nick, and I'm a MOOC addict. It's been 2 weeks since I studied my last MOOC, and I started a new one on Monday, actually. I can't get enough of MOOCs. These are some of the MOOCs I've taken in the last year. You may see a pattern. The red are technology-based when I was learning about MOOCs. The blue ones are things of my own interest. I'll leave it up to you to decide what I do in my spare time. But there's a pattern there maybe between the blue and the red. First of all, has anyone taken a MOOC? Oh, that's quite a few. Okay. So you should be able to answer the next question, or the first question. But first of all, my talk, I'm going to look at it. First of all, what a MOOC is. Some of you may know that already. Why Bell? I work for Bell in London. Why we decided to make a MOOC. What we produced and how, and a little bit of a view of some screenshots of the MOOC. Who the participants were, students, and what lessons we have learned from this. Maybe some questions at the end if there's time. And the presentation will be uploaded with references. There's some references on here, there's some bit of heavy pedagogical links, so I won't go into too much detail of those. You can check those yourself later. So what is a MOOC? Okay, that's good. So this is a term coined by Dave Cormier, some Canadian guy in 2008, and this is the definition. It's a course with a start and end date that's open with no barriers to entry, neither cost nor education criteria. The courses are also online, accessed on the web, and are massive, requiring a significant number of students to contribute to a connected learning environment. The key word there, I think, is massive. Without the M, it's not a MOOC. It's a Luke, or something, a little one, or massive. So massive is quite key to being a MOOC, I think. The pedagogy behind MOOCs. There's two types of MOOCs. There's the X-MOOC and the C-MOOC. The C-MOOC, anyone knows what C stands for? No? I'm here to tell you. A constructivist or connectivist MOOC. There's two different C's there. An X-MOOC is generally instructor-led. It's got a broadcast of content. It's got pathways through the MOOC which are quite linear, and there's fixed competencies of things to learn which students are expected to know by the end of it. The C-MOOC is far more personal and subjective. Students set their own goals. There's no fixed competencies, and it's about building webs of connections and learning from each other and the other students, and you create your own meaning from this. So my second question: which one do you think is most suited to language learning?
Mix.
C's? Anyone C's? C-MOOC? X-MOOC? The rest of you don't know? Okay. Both? Very interesting. We'll come back to that later. Okay. So, why did Bell run a MOOC? First of all, I persuaded them to. That's the main reason. It's a way of connecting with learners in new ways, rather than the students coming to England to study with Bell like they often do, or going to a normal classroom. So it's a bit of an experiment, really, this was. Developing skills of intercultural competence. This is one of the founding principles of Bell as a language school, is intercultural competence through language. So that's a key factor in Bell. To experiment with course models in general. To build in-house skills and cross-team collaboration. And to extend the awareness of Bell. It's semi-marketing, obviously the Bell brand is on the MOOC. But the in-house skills was quite interesting. We had different people to form this team, from marketing, from HR, from the Young Learner Programme, from materials designers and moderators who just came together for this one project who hadn't worked together before. So it's interesting to run this short project, sort of semi-agile project management system for that. MOOCs, okay. We ran a mixture of an X-MOOC and a C-MOOC. So yes, you're all right. It was linear in some ways. There were certain pathways to it. It was instructor-led. We chose some of the content, but the connectivist principles are very big in this. Students are expected to connect and communicate with each other and learn from each other and peer teach. So it's a mixture of both MOOCs, really. It was in a CLIL format, so it's content-driven. It wasn't language-driven. We presented authentic materials from the internet, from YouTube videos, from Guardian newspaper articles, different content from the web, which we didn't create, we linked to, and that was the core content. The students then used that as a learning experience. We scaffolded the language and the vocabulary from this, and then students responded to the content on a personal level. So the CLIL model was quite important. This is the technical stuff. Gagne's 9 events of instruction is a certain way of sequencing your events with engagement. Like Michael Huey talked about this morning, priming, priming the students ready for the instruction which is coming, getting to perform, getting to feedback on their performance. Driscoll's 5 constructivist conditions for learning, they all like numbers, these people do for some reason. Again, it's partly about how the students are given preparation to connect with each other and learn from each other. Salmon's 5-stage model you may be familiar with in terms of e-moderating and building engagement and sharing information. And Nielsen's 10 usability heuristics, this comes from my previous web life. It's how to build user interfaces, how to make it easy for students to find the content so they don't get lost. And gamification, I know it's a dirty word sometimes, but certain aspects of gamification about building online profiles, use of avatars for student identity, being able to do tests and retest them, do the trials and sort of get performance, feedback on their performance, all quite important. So, the Bell MOOC. It was a 4 weeks of content, 1 week beforehand of introduction and a week at the end for a final task. So it's 6 weeks long and there's 4 different topics in this. At the beginning we had a series of orientation exercises. So there's a big welcome page and they went to fill out their profiles, write about themselves, get to know each other in introduction forums. There was a pin map so they could identify where they were in the world and get some sense of identity. They were spread across all the continents, all around the world, which is quite interesting. And some sequencing of events so the students knew where they were going to go and what they were prepared to do in the course as well. So that's the introduction week. The topics, we looked at food, festivals, etiquette, and TV. So we provided content from the internet, from websites, like I said, and YouTube videos about all of these 4 topics. Students were presented this information, they had responded to the content, they then talked about their own culture, they compared with each other's cultures, and they chatted about each other's experiences and their personal lives. They did this in a variety of ways. Also YouTube videos, articles. So we had forums for students to discuss things. This was generally in response to the content. So the first one there is, what do you think British people eat? So before they looked at the content about British cuisine, they had to talk about what they said. And most of them said fish and chips. The video we actually showed them was about curry. So that was quite interesting to me. Bradford curry houses. So that was the initial engagement with the students and then response to the content. There was blogs where students then had to personalise the content and talk about their own foods from their own countries and then compare with each other and discuss with each other. And there was also journals where students had reflection. They were asked to sort of give guided questions about what they've learned, what they've learned from other cultures, what vocabulary and phrases they've learned. So there's different aspects of the course and different ways for them to respond to this and to engage with each other. There are some sections on checking your content, so there's some short quizzes built into the site. This was checking some of the content itself, checking their comprehension of the content. There's vocabulary quizzes, there's phrases, and there's some grammar quizzes as well. So they're given true or false, drag and drop questions, short answer questions, and their feedback was immediate. So when they got an answer wrong, they'd get told it was wrong. They wouldn't get told why. They'd get told to go back and look at the content again and try and learn it better next time. And they could try the quizzes up to 5 times each. So a lot of them, we could check on the statistics. A lot of them went back and did it again and got better scores the second and third times, which is what we wanted really. Lots of scaffolding to help them with the content. It was content driven, but the scaffolding was there. So we had a glossary on the site with lots of unfamiliar vocabulary, which they may not have known before. We used Quizlet as well. I don't know if anyone's used Quizlet. It's a flashcard vocabulary learning app which they can put on their phones. They can carry it with them on the bus, at home. They can do quick vocabulary exercises and learn the vocabulary. This was linked to the topics of the course, and it's released on a week-by-week basis. So each week they had a new topic vocabulary available to them on Quizlet, and we could check the statistics of this as well, which is quite important. And we also provided all of the content in multimodal. So all of the videos we had a tape script for, we had word clouds for it, again to help the sort of what's the word? Help them to understand the text. We also had sections for stronger students. The course was pitched at a strong B1 level, but we also provided a lot of other authentic content for students who were, 1, either interested, or 2, had a higher level of language. And there were lots of links. These weren't scaffolded, they weren't tested, it's just for students who are of interest, who want to explore these topics further really. So we had a lot of videos and websites for that. And then at the end, in week 6, we had a final task. This is very open. The students were asked to provide a personal response based on something they'd learned from the course, something from their own experience, linked to 2 of the topics, and create something. We didn't tell them what to create. We gave them some ideas, we gave them some clues. They could use Blogster, they could make short videos, animations. So we sent them links to various online tools they could use, and some how-to videos on how to do this, and then they uploaded these to the site, and then it was reviewed by their peers. So the other students reviewed the content and gave judgment on it, really. So that was the course. The students, this is a pilot, so we tried a small pilot to start with. It was aimed at 13 to 17-year-olds, so the teenagers. There was 2 target groups. Bell runs winter programs for students to come to the UK, and part of it was aimed at students who were coming here to learn about British culture before they arrived. And the other target group was people who were just recruited through Facebook. We didn't have any connection with them before, we didn't know who they were, there's no barriers to this. We wanted a certain number of students and we put the message out there. When we reached the target, we stopped. And so that's the 2 different groups, and they worked strangely together, to be honest. It ran last year in November and December, the beginning of November to the end of December. And this is the bit, my second apology and confession. There's only 100 students, so it's not really a MOOC. It was a LOOC, it was an LOOC. But it was a pilot, so we're looking at the process, we're looking at the sort of content. It wasn't really a MOOC, we didn't get the massive scale and the collaboration here. So 100 students was our target. We recruited 100 students, we sent 100 students login details. So how many students do you think actually joined the site?
40, 50.
47. So less than half actually took advantage of the login details. How many people actually used the site? 36 accessed it in some form. Okay, what do you, some form? 22 spent more than 1 hour. So of those 36, 14 of them spent less than an hour on the course. So 22 spent more than 1 hour, and the completion of people who uploaded a task and got a certificate at the end was 8. So 8%?
Pretty good.
8%? It's pretty good. We're going to look at some statistics of MOOCs in a minute, but 8 wasn't bad, I think. If we name them differently rather than students, there's applicants, registrants, tasters, participants, and completers. Now we look at the participants here, and the completers. So that's even better. That's 36% of people who actually participate in the course who completed. So we're not looking at 7%, 8%. We're looking at 36%. Importantly, yes, what did the students learn? Did they learn anything? It's hard to know, really, because we didn't give them a language test at the beginning. We didn't give them a language test at the end. We asked them what they learned, and they said the key learning points were information about British culture, which is what the course is about, so that's good. Information about other peoples and other cultures, which is also very interesting. Lots of vocabulary. And how to study online. None of these students had ever done an online course before. So the fact that 8 of them actually managed to do this without any sort of previous knowledge is quite good as well. So how to study online. And they also learned about the websites we sent them, the creation tools we sent them, using Quizlet. I could see from the stats, again, that a lot of these students had gone away and used Quizlet for their own vocabulary outside of what we prepared for them. So it's a new tool they've learned how to use there to help them with English. So I've put this into 7 lessons we've learned from this. I'm going to show them one by one, but the 7 will be there at the end if anyone wants to take a photo, because I know that's what people like to do. So there's 7 lessons we've learned, listed at the end. Lesson number 1, bigger is better. Okay, we're trying to make this a connectivist MOOC, a CMOOC, so we're trying to open the pathways up to what students learn, what experience they have, and the bigger the better. The more students there are for them to learn from and collaborate with and talk to, the more they're going to gain from this. Again, it's about restricting choice. The more students they can find things they're interested in. If they're students from Chile who's going to go and visit France, he could talk to a French student and find out about French culture. Again, all in the medium of English. So the more number of students, the more they've got a chance to learn things that are interesting to them. There's a drawback to this. The first MOOC I ever took had 65,000 students on it. When I joined, I was lost. I quit after 2 weeks and didn't go back, because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to follow, which blog to follow. There was blogs, there was wikis, there were Facebook groups, there were Skype chats, there were people on Hangouts, there were people meeting up in London face to face, and I got lost in it all. So I'm an experienced e-learner, and I got lost in 65,000 students. So it may be better, but the students need help to do this, I think. I did go back and do the course again afterwards. Lesson 2. Students are there for many reasons. We looked at before about the different categories of the tasters, there's the people who register. The MOOC data from the global MOOC world sort of split into these 4 sections here. There's almost 50% of people who are sampling. They just want to see what happens, what it's about. Take a look. They're tasters maybe. They're not interested in continuing the course or getting a certificate. The auditing group are ones who maybe want to see all of the content, but again, maybe not officially, not in a formal sense. There's the disengaging group who are getting bored and dropping out. But there's different ways of disengaging again. I think I saw a talk yesterday from a guy at BOOSU talking about people drop out because of other commitments, sickness. They're not always dropping out because of the course content. And the final group completing is actually 7%, the global MOOCs. So our 8% is good, our 36% is better, depending on how you calculate it. So we didn't think we were doing too bad on that, really. Lesson number 3. Plan everything. Okay, people who've made any courses at all, or made any online courses, this is a lesson you probably learned yourself. You start making the course online, then you decide you want to change the font. So you go up and change all the fonts, then you change the colour, then you change the icons. And we spent a lot of time going back and revising our formatting, our font sizes, and I would recommend do this at the beginning, do it on paper, do it in one module, before you waste time and change everything, because we learned a lot when looking at it on different devices, that the colours are wrong or the icons are wrong. So plan everything first beforehand, if possible. Lesson number 4. This is probably the hardest lesson we learned, actually, understanding the platform tools. We used something called Course Sites, which is an external-facing version of Blackboard, which is used in lots of universities worldwide. I haven't used Course Sites before. I've used Joomla and Drupal and Moodle, but Course Sites seemed to fit what we wanted to do better. It had some connectivist tools on there, but there's lots of things we didn't know about it when we started, which we learned at the end. So the next time we run this course, we're going to have a lot more ideas about how to use the tools a lot better. So ways of forums and blogs and wikis, how students actually write things and communicate with each other. Ways of sequencing the course. You can sequence it by topic or by week. You can release it adaptively to stronger students. You can release things as a slow release based by date. And all the different ways of using the platform can have different outcomes on your course and how the students engage with it, really. So another thing was about data, collecting data on parts of the course that students visit. We didn't set this up in some of the pages, so some of the data we didn't collect. But we realised you have to change a setting in some of the platform settings. So by the end, we collected data on everything. How long people spent on a particular section, how many times they came back to it, how many times they took the quiz, whether they did better on the second quiz than the first quiz, which content they liked, which content they didn't like. And all of this is part of the platform tools which we need to sort of improve our use of, really. And connecting students as well. One of the things students loved the most in feedback was announcements. We sent them a reminder on the Sunday night saying, don't forget your course is back on again tomorrow. And they came back, and they all said that was really, really key to them. They would have forgotten about it, or it would have slipped their mind. So announcing things to students, contacting groups of students, again, are all part of platform tools, really, which is very important to know how they work. Lesson 5, data. Okay, capturing the data and the feedback from students. We had a questionnaire at the beginning from students about why they wanted to take part in the course. Not all of them answered it. That was our fault, because we could have stopped them doing the rest of the course until they had answered it. Again, we weren't sure that the process was for that. So we had only 20 people who responded to the initial survey. The end survey, the only people who answered the end survey were the 8 people who completed the course. So we don't know why the other people left. And it's quite hard to, if someone disengages, they're not interested in giving you the feedback. So we followed it up a couple of times with emails, asking them to say a simple yes or no. Why didn't you finish the course? Was it because of time? Was it because of the course? And most of them said it was because of time, actually. They were 13 to 17-year-olds. Most of them said exams. Whether that's a real excuse or not, I don't know. But capturing the data of where people start and where people finish is very important. Coursera, which is one of the big university MOOCs, which I've used a lot, they've just changed their initial questionnaires now to say, are you intending to finish the course? Are you intending to just to audit the course? Or are you intending just to look at it? And if you can capture that at the beginning and realise that 22% of people aren't interested in finishing and then they don't, you're not worried about it. So capturing that data is quite useful, really. Some of the other data we captured, the forums, we had 2 forums per topic and an introduction forum. You can see they all love the introduction forum. There's 1,119 minutes spent on the site for about 22 students. So there's lots of engagement, there's 4 or 5 or 6 responses per student on there. It drops rapidly into the other topics as people disengaged, and towards the end it was very much 0 towards the end, really. The learning access, about the little quizzes, again you can see who started and who finished the quizzes. What's interesting in this one is etiquette was the final topic, but it had a higher rate of use than the TV topic. And we did get feedback the fact that actually they liked the etiquette topic a lot more. So they're more interested in doing the quizzes on it. So which topics worked and which topics didn't came evident in the data, really. So we can either tweak the TV one, make it more interesting, or we can dump the TV topic next time. Activity by session, so the forums was most popular. The quizzes, everyone loved the quizzes, really. The journals at the end, no. I mean, again, maybe we didn't sell them the idea of the benefit of reflection on this, really, but the idea of reflecting on it was something we'd like them to do, but not many people took part in that. So I think in the introductory weeks and the way we sell the course to them, the reflection part in the journals, we need to beef up a little bit, I think. Lesson 6. Okay, half of you said what you know what a MOOC is. People don't know what a MOOC is. I mean, when I tried to sell it to my company, most of them didn't know what it was. The word has filtered around the company now, and the finance team going, MOOC, yes, we've heard of MOOC. They don't know what it is, but they've heard of it. It's on the news, it's in TV. One thing it's not is an online course. It's a specific type of online course, in my opinion. The massive part adds scale, it adds emergent knowledge, different affordances in the online world, in the massive side of it. There's people now running SPOC, S-P-O-C, which are short, private online courses. Now that to me just sounds like an online course, but it's got an acronym, therefore it's more official. So MOOC is a specific type of online course. Another thing it's not is a way of making money, I think. If you want the scale, people won't pay for it. All the universities have put millions into Coursera, they're not making money on it yet. They're trying to, so if your finance department says, yes, we can make money from a MOOC, no, they probably can't. Other things, it's not easy to gauge success of a MOOC because of the way people leave it and what they leave it for. You can't look at the numbers and say 8%, it's a bad MOOC. So gauging success to try and measure metrics for your department or your team or your company is difficult to do in a MOOC unless they really understand what a MOOC is. So that's a bit of a battle, I think. Lesson 7, surprise, surprise, speaking. The students were told at the beginning of the course there's no speaking, they were told throughout the course there's no speaking, they all complained there was no speaking. It's what they're used to. English lessons, they speak first, they read and do grammar stuff afterwards, but communication, verbal communication is the key to most people's language lessons. So because they were all around the world in different time zones, synchronous speaking was very difficult to organise, really. So we didn't do speaking in this course, but the next time we run it we're going to add different tools using voice threads maybe, or Vocaroo, or various other tools where students can go and leave a recording, they can respond to other people's recordings, but that wasn't in the original course, and that's the thing they moaned about the most, really. So there's the 7 lessons, if anyone wants to take a photo. One person. That's it, too late. Okay, are there any questions? Okay.
Do you have any data about where students came from?
Yes.
Any sense of
Out of 100 students, they came from, people tended to sign up in chunks. We saw people like from Chile, one person from Chile signed up, and within an hour, 6 other people from Chile had signed up, and we presumed that they were friends. We had 8 people from Yemen, somehow. None of them took part, but 8 people signed up. We had a lot of them from Europe, actually, Holland, Germany, Poland, France. Not many from Asia, South America mainly, and Europe. Yes.
Your users that spent more time or completed the course, were they the cohorts that were coming out of the university course and
No.
caring for it?
No.
They were the social media.
Yes, they were the social media, and they were the strongest students in level. I mean, you could tell from their forum posts that they probably had a B2 English level, and so they engaged more, and they loved it actually. There's 8 people.
You mentioned it was sort of field-based.
Yes.
So the content that you were drawing on, was that all open source? Is that out on the web?
Yes, it wasn't anything we created. It was all YouTube, Guardian, news websites and
So
stuff.
the second part of that, how future-proof is the course? How do you know that that content's not going to disappear?
I mean, places like the Guardian are pretty good at archiving their material, as long as you put the correct link, the archive link into the site rather than the sort of current link. We'd have to check it each time we run it. At the moment, we haven't thought about that. When we did the pilot, we were just making the pilot and not thinking about that stage, to be honest. But you're right, things disappear. So yes.
Difficult question, but how much time do you think it took to set up?
It's not a difficult question. I know exactly how much time it took.
From you and from your team.
It took me about 70 hours of research, tinkering, thinking, experimenting, trying all the different MOOC platforms, some of which was paid for and some of which wasn't.
That's including the content, making...
No, I didn't do any content. We had content creators, and they were given about 25 hours per topic to create, find the content and create the quizzes and
so
sequence it.
125 hours or something.
Probably about 100 hours in content creation, and a lot of research before that, really, I think. Sorry,
Thank you.
What do you think you do differently next time to turn it from a LOOC to a MOOC?
I don't know why we capped it at 100. We capped it at 100 thinking that those 100 would join and 100 would be enough. We didn't think that the 100 wouldn't join. So that was our big... We should have gone for 500 and then gone for 100 people taking part.
I mean, did you potentially have 500 for the first time?
We only recruited on social media for 5 or 6 days, and we got 100 people in 6 days. So we could run it for 2 or 3 weeks and get a large number, I think, without a problem.
An extension of that question, are there other things you do differently next time?
Yes. I've got a list somewhere, and I can't remember where I put it, because I knew that question would come up. Partly about the scaffolding, I think. We didn't provide any explicit grammar scaffolding. We provided links to grammar sites, but we didn't put any of that in the site itself. There was a forum for grammar, and it was used by 2 or 3 people. So we want to sort of, wasn't focusing on that, we want to beef that up a little bit, the ELT bit. So the grammar scaffolding especially, I think. Sorry, yes. At the back.
Hi, yeah, you said that we don't make money from MOOCs, and that's about 200 to 300 hours of work.
Yes.
How did you persuade them? 2 questions. First of all, how did you persuade them to let you do this? And secondly, how much of this can just be used for other MOOCs or for continuing this?
Probably about half of that time was spent on research and thinking and whatever. So that's been done. The content creation, I think, only about 100 hours of content creation. Most of that could probably be used again, I think, but we need to look at the stats a lot more about which topics people found interesting or too difficult, and tweak some of the things like that. The company, I don't know, my company was quite interested in, we did 3 or 4 pilots last year, all of them lost leaders, just to see, we used electronic badges, we did something on distance writing, marking, LinkedIn group, we did various types of different ways of exploring the online world.
So will they let you carry on? Or do you at some point have to hit the bottom line?
That's in discussion. Yes, we are going to carry on and do something with it. Yeah. It's not just a marketing tool for Bell, no. We learned lessons from this in terms of how the team works inside Bell, in terms of putting teams together for things, which is useful in other sectors. We've learned about online platforms which could be used for sold courses as well. So there's other lessons we've learned from this rather than just the MOOCs and stuff.
You mentioned that there were a couple of materials that stronger students could follow up on.
Yes.
How sensitive or how flexible was the material for language levels? Because I don't think you did a screening for language level at the beginning.
No, we didn't. We said B1. We said it was meant to be B1, but we didn't test students. It was all authentic. All the materials authentic native speaker content. But with the stuff in the course, we did scaffold it. We did things about vocabulary and some of the grammar in the quiz section was designed around the content. But with the going further sections, there was nothing there to help them. So it was completely authentic English, and the stronger ones could take that if they wanted to.
But you don't have any information whether students dropped out because of language level?
No, we don't. That's one thing we don't know really. Did they find it too difficult linguistically? No, we don't know that bit.
Can I ask online tutors and moderators?
Yes. We had 2 moderators who were trained in e-moderating to do this. One of the things, the data, we can tell which days the students came to the course. So we could then manage to schedule our moderators to be on the site at those times more specifically. They tend to be clustered around the weekends. They were sort of spending only about 3 or 4 hours a week, really. And they weren't there to do any teaching, they were there to help students engage with each other, really.
Wasn't there a reason for the cap, Nick?
So what was the reason for the cap of 100?
The moderator resource.
Money.
Yeah.
Once the course is running, the biggest cost then is the cost of the moderators, the teachers taking part.
One of the pieces of data you had about forums about technical issues.
Yes.
About 26.
The technical issues, I mean, a lot of it is because the site we used was actually quite clunky. I don't know if you've used Blackboard or something. It's not a quick refresh site. And a lot of times it froze or... So I think it's the platform itself which was slow, really. And then some students were in places with slow internet. And we can't do anything about that, really, unfortunately. But there wasn't anything else. It was mostly the speed of the platform.
Do you think that contributed to some people not considering?
We can only speculate on that, unfortunately.
Forum that I've had enough or...
No, I mean, if they leave, they leave. They don't say, right, I'm leaving because of this. They just leave, don't they? And there's no reason to give an excuse as they sneak out the door. The online door.
What kind of feedback did they get? Feedback?
Okay, we only got main feedback from the people who completed. And that, the fact they completed it is feedback enough in some sense.
No, I mean your feedback to the moderator's feedback.
Okay, the moderator's feedback to me, you mean?
Not to them.
To the students. They didn't give feedback as such. They encouraged the students to communicate with each other. They commented on the content of their comments rather than the grammar, or we didn't give any grammar or vocabulary feedback at all.
Nick, we're going to have to stop questions, I'm afraid.
Okay.
It's almost time for the next session. If you've got questions, I'm sure you can email him.
Yes, the email is there, so that's it.